the mirror of manipulation. Tonight, we venture into the quiet corridors of the human mind, guided by the shadow of Niccolo Machiavelli. But this is not a lesson on how to become a tyrant. It is a study of the invisible strings that pull at you every day. Paradoxically, the best way to arm yourself against influence is to understand it while your defenses are down, while you rest. What if the calm you feel right now is simply your mind preparing to see reality differently? As your body sinks into the mattress and the noise of the day fades, ask yourself, who is truly in control of your choices? Let us walk through this labyrinth together. By the time you drift into sleep, you will understand the games people play without ever having to speak a word. We begin with the most primal instrument of influence, the mirror. You have likely heard that people like those who are similar to them, but the Machiavellian application of this truth is far more precise and far more unsettling. Consider the last time you felt an immediate magnetic connection with someone. It felt effortless, didn't it? You felt understood. You felt seen. It was as if they spoke your language before you even taught it to them. But in the realm of dark psychology, this comfort is often a carefully constructed illusion. The mirror is not there to show you who they are. It is there to show you who you are. The mechanic is subtle. A master influencer does not impose their personality upon you. They dissolve their own personality to become a reflection of yours. They observe the rhythm of your breathing, the specific words you use to describe your emotions, the cadence of your voice. And then, with the precision of a surgeon, they feed it back to you. This is not simple mimicry, which appears mocking. This is chameleonizing. When you are angry, they do not tell you to calm down. They match your intensity just enough to validate you, then slowly lower their own energy, bringing you down with them. They are not leading you by pulling. They are leading you by joining. Imagine standing before a still lake at twilight. The water reflects the sky so perfectly that you cannot tell where the air ends and the water begins. This is the sensation of being mirrored. It bypasses your logical brain, the part of you that judges and analyzes, and speaks directly to your narcissism. We all possess a deep, inherent love for our own image. When someone mirrors us, they are essentially saying, I am you. And because you trust yourself, you implicitly trust this other version of yourself standing before you. But here is the deconstruction of the mechanism, the part that might make you shift slightly in your bed as you realize the implication. The danger of the mirror is that it creates a false intimacy. You believe you have known this person for years, yet you know nothing about them. You only know the parts of yourself they have reflected. They have become a blank screen upon which you project your own desires and values. While you are busy falling in love with the reflection, they are busy studying the source. They are gathering data, your insecurities, your triggers, your deepest needs, while remaining completely opaque themselves. In your daily life, this manifests in the colleague who agrees with your grievances about the boss, only to use that shared frustration to steer you into a risky alliance. It appears in the romantic interest who seems to share every single one of your obscure hobbies in the first month, only to slowly reveal a completely different nature once the attachment is formed. The mirror is the ultimate tool of validation, and validation is the drug we are all addicted to. As you lie here, breathing slowly, let this realization settle without anxiety. To see the mirror is to break its spell. The next time you meet someone who feels too perfect, too aligned, too much like a reflection of your own soul, pause. Step back from the glass. Ask yourself, are they showing me who they are, Or are they simply showing me who I want them to be? The mirror only has power if you do not recognize it as a surface. Once you see the glass, you can no longer be tricked by the reflection. You are safe now, in the dark, watching the mirror shatter into harmless dust. The mask of vulnerability. We often mistake power for strength, for armor, for the ability to stand unshakable against the wind. We imagine the Machiavellian figure as a stone fortress, cold, imposing, and impenetrable. But this is a primitive understanding of control. True influence often wears a much softer disguise. This is the mask of vulnerability. It is the counterintuitive truth that the most effective way to disarm a threat is not to raise a shield, but to expose a throat. Think of the mechanism of sympathy. It is a biological imperative hardwired into the human brain. When we see something fragile, something hurt, something confused, our instinct is not to attack. It is to protect. We lower our guard. We holster our weapons. We lean in closer. And that is exactly where the trap is sprung. The master manipulator knows that if they appear too competent, too perfect, they trigger your envy and your competitiveness. You become alert, watching for their mistake. But if they appear slightly flawed, slightly overwhelmed, or in need of your specific help, you relax. You feel superior. And in feeling superior, you become careless. Imagine a scenario where a rival asks for your advice on a matter they clearly do not understand. They seem lost. They admit their ignorance. "I don't know how to handle this," they whisper, looking down. In that moment, your ego swells. You feel benevolent. You offer your wisdom, your resources, perhaps even your secrets, thinking you are helping a harmless novice. You have just handed them the keys to the kingdom because they knocked on the door with a trembling hand. This is strategic incompetence. By feigning an inability to perform a task, they force you to do it for them or to teach them exactly how you do it, revealing your methods in the process. This pattern echoes through history and nature. The predator that feigns injury to draw prey within striking distance. The leader who admits a small, calculated fault to appear authentic and human, thereby distracting the public from a much larger systemic corruption. It is the art of the blemish. If someone presents you with a diamond that is too flawless, you suspect it is fake. But if they show you a tiny scratch on the side, you believe the stone is real. Manipulators offer you a small, curated flaw, a bad habit, a moment of sadness, a confession of fear, to sell you the lie of their honesty. Connect this to your own experiences. Think of the people who constantly seem to be in a state of minor crisis, always requiring your emotional labor to stabilize them. You feel a duty to them. You feel needed. That dependency is a form of control. While you are busy fixing their problems, you are not focusing on your own path. You are tethered to their chaos. They have weaponized their fragility to harvest your energy. As you sink deeper into the mattress, consider the weight of the armor you carry. You try so hard to be strong. But realize that those who wish to influence you are not afraid of your strength. They are waiting for you to feel pity. The next time someone presents their neck to you, asking for your mercy or your aid, observe them with a cool, detached eye. Are they truly in need, or are they inviting you to step into a circle of gravity you cannot escape? Real vulnerability is brave and rare. Strategic vulnerability is a performance. In the quiet of this night, you can tell the difference. You are the audience who has stopped clapping, watching the actor from the shadows of the wings. Silence as a weapon. The world is loud. It demands your attention, your words. your constant participation. We are conditioned to believe that influence belongs to the one holding the microphone, the one shouting the loudest orders. But in the deep, dark waters of psychology, noise is often a signal of insecurity. The true predator moves in silence. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is a heavy, suffocating substance that can be wielded like a blade. Consider the physics of a conversation. It is a vacuum. When two people speak, there is a rhythm, a constant exchange of pressure. If one person suddenly stops, if they simply cease to push back, a void is created. The human mind is terrified of this void. We are social creatures who equate silence with rejection, with judgment, with the unknown. When faced with a blank face and a closed mouth, our anxiety spikes. We feel a desperate, frantic need to fill the empty space. This is where the manipulation occurs. The Machiavellian figure asks you a question. You answer. They do not respond. They simply look at you, maintaining eye contact, their expression unreadable. 3 seconds pass. 5 seconds. The silence stretches, becoming a physical weight in the room. In that gap, your confidence begins to fracture. You start to doubt your own answer. Did I say enough? Did I say something wrong? Do they know the truth? To relieve the tension, you start talking again. You elaborate. You justify. You offer details you didn't intend to share. You reveal the truth you meant to hide, simply to make the silence stop. This is the pregnant pause, weaponized. It is an interrogation technique used by detectives and negotiators, but it is also used in boardrooms and bedrooms. By withholding the validation of a nod or a uh-huh, the listener forces the speaker to work harder for approval. The one who speaks less holds the power, because the one who speaks less reveals less. Information is the currency of conflict, and if you're talking, you are spending. If they are silent, they are saving. Imagine yourself as a stone at the bottom of a deep ocean. The water around you is silent, heavy, and crushing. It does not need to scream to exert pressure. Its weight is absolute. This is the power you can reclaim. You do not need to explain yourself to anyone. You do not need to fill the silence to make others comfortable. Many stop here. They've had enough truth. But you didn't. Leave a like so I'll know you crossed that line. Let the silence of your room wrap around you now. It is not empty. It is full of potential. It is a shield. When you wake tomorrow, try it. When someone pressures you, when a question feels intrusive, simply wait. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Watch how they scramble to fill the void you created. In the quiet, you are the mountain, and they are merely the wind blowing against it. The economy of favors. We move now to the marketplace of human interaction, where nothing is truly free, and every gift carries a ghost of an obligation. This is the economy of favors, a system built on the ancient biological hardwiring of reciprocity. Humans are social animals who survived by sharing resources. If you gave me meat in the winter, I was genetically compelled to give you berries in the spring. To not reciprocate was to be cast out, to die alone. The Machiavellian mind hacks this survival code to create a debt you never asked for. This mechanism is often called the Ben Franklin effect, or simply the rule of reciprocity, but its dark application is far more calculated. It begins with an unsolicited gift. It might be small, a cup of coffee, a compliment, a piece of insider information, a minor assistance with a task. It seems generous. It seems kind. You instinctively say, "Thank you." And in that moment, an invisible ledger is opened in your brain. You now feel an internal itching pressure to balance the scales. You are in the red. The manipulator knows that the psychological discomfort of owing someone is powerful. They do not cash in this debt immediately. They wait. They let the guilt ferment. They let you sit with the feeling that they are a good person, and you are the beneficiary of their kindness. Then, when the time is right, they ask for the return. But here is the trick. The return is rarely equal to the gift. Because you are desperate to relieve the tension of the debt, you will agree to a request that is far larger than the original favor. You will agree to stay late to finish their work because they bought you a bagel 3 weeks ago. The exchange rate in this economy is rigged. Furthermore, by accepting the favor, you have implicitly agreed to a relationship. You have allowed them to cross a boundary. This creates a web of dependence. If they continue to provide for you, solving your problems, handling your conflicts, giving you things you didn't know you needed, you begin to lose your autonomy. You become a satellite orbiting their gravity. You fear cutting ties because you feel you owe them too much. Or worse, you fear you cannot function without their handouts. Visualize a spiderweb glistening with dew. It looks delicate, almost beautiful in the morning light. But the fly does not get caught because it wants to. It gets caught because the web was placed exactly where the fly was flying. The favor is the silk strand. It is sticky, and the more you struggle against the debt, the more entangled you become. As you rest here, safe and detached, examine the gifts in your life. Look at the generosity of those around you. Is it free? Does it come with air? Or does it come with strings? True generosity seeks no return. It is a loop that closes on itself. Manipulation is a line that hooks into your side and pulls. You have the power to refuse the gift. You have the right to say, no thank you, and keep your ledger clear. In the darkness of your sleep, you owe nothing to anyone. You are free of debt, free of obligation, floating in a space that belongs entirely to you. The art of dependence. We move deeper into the architecture of connection, arriving at a truth that feels cold to the touch. Independence is the enemy of influence. In the romanticized version of the world, we are taught that relationships are built on mutual freedom. But the Machiavellian architect knows that freedom allows you to walk away. To truly secure a position of power, one does not seek to be loved. One seeks to be necessary. This is the art of dependence. Imagine a great ancient vine winding its way around a strong oak tree. At first, the vine seems to adorn the tree, adding beauty, perhaps even protecting the bark from the harsh sun. It feels symbiotic, but slowly, over years, the vine thickens. It begins to bear the weight the tree used to carry for itself. It intercepts the rain. It filters the light. Eventually, the tree forgets how to stand alone, because it no longer has to. If you were to rip the vine away suddenly, the tree would not rejoice in its freedom. It would collapse from the shock of its own weight. In human dynamics, this creation of dependence is subtle. It rarely looks like domination. It looks like help. It looks like the partner who insists on handling all the finances, because you shouldn't have to worry about math. It looks like the manager who hoards information, making themselves the only gateway to the project's success. They become the bottleneck of your reality. By saving you from small inconveniences, they slowly atrophy your ability to solve problems. You begin to lose the muscle memory of your own competence. The psychological impact is a regression to a childlike state. You stop trusting your own judgment because you have an external hard drive, another person who does the processing for you. You feel a vague anxiety when they are away, a sense that the world is too sharp, too complex to navigate without their filter. This is not love. This is a tether. The influencer knows that if you rely on them for your happiness, your income, or your self-esteem, they possess the ultimate leverage. They do not need to force you to stay. You will stay because the alternative is a void you no longer know how to fill. But as you lie here, untethered from the demands of the day, realize that your competence is still there. It is merely dormant. The vine is not the tree. You are the oak. You existed before the influence, and you possess the roots to exist after it. Dependence is a habit, not a permanent state. To see the mechanism is to begin cutting the vine, strand by strand, not with aggression, but with the quiet confidence of someone remembering how to stand tall. The illusion of choice. There is a profound comfort in believing we are the captains of our own souls, that every turn we take is a decision born of our own free will. But the master of psychology knows that the most effective prison is one where the prisoner believes they hold the key. This is the illusion of choice. It is the technique of framing reality so that all available paths lead to the destination the architect has already chosen for you. Think of a magician forcing a card. He fans the deck out before you. Pick any card, he says. You feel the agency in your fingertips. You scan the options. You hesitate. You pull the Jack of Hearts. You believe you could have chosen the king or the ace. But the magician knows that through subtle hand placement, timing, and visual cues, he guided your hand to the Jack long before you touched it. Your choice was a sensation, not a reality. In negotiation and conflict, this manifests as the double bind. A parent asks a child, "Do you want to take your bath before dinner or after?" The child feels empowered because they get to decide the when. But the what, the bath itself, is non-negotiable. The resistance is bypassed because the mind is busy processing the safe, limited options presented to it. In the adult world, it is the salesman who asks, "Do you prefer the payment plan or the full purchase?" Instead of, "Do you want to buy this?" It is the toxic partner who says, "You can leave and lose everything we built, or stay and fix this with me." The options are rigged. The exits are painted on the wall. This creates a cognitive tunnel. When we are offered choices, our brain enters a selection mode. We evaluate A versus B. We weigh the pros and cons. This analytical process consumes so much energy that we forget to look outside the frame. We forget that C, D, and E exist. We forget that we can simply walk away from the table entirely. The manipulator relies on your desire to be reasonable, to play by the rules of the game they have set up. But tonight, in the safety of your own mind, you can step back from the table. Visualize the choices currently pressing on you. Are they truly the only options? Or are they simply the cards that have been fanned out in front of you? The walls of the maze are only as high as your line of sight. If you look up, if you float above the binary choices of this or that, you see the open sky. True freedom is not picking the right card. It is realizing you don't have to play the game at all. The power of selective recognition. We crave consistency. We want to know that if we do good work, we will be praised. If we show love, we will be loved in return. But consistent rewards, strangely, do not create the strongest addictions. The strongest addictions are born from inconsistency. This is the principle of intermittent reinforcement, and it is the engine behind the power of selective recognition. It is the logic of the slot machine, and it is the logic of the most consuming, draining relationships. Imagine a rat in a cage. If it presses a lever and receives a pellet of food every single time, it presses the lever only when it is hungry. The behavior is stable, predictable. But if the mechanism is changed, if the lever only yields food sometimes, at random intervals, the rat becomes obsessed. It presses the lever frantically, incessantly, ignoring sleep, ignoring rest. The uncertainty creates a spike of dopamine that is far more intense than the reward itself. The anticipation of maybe this time is a powerful drug. In the human sphere, this looks like the partner who is distant and cold for 3 days, then suddenly, inexplicably, showers you with affection and praise on the 4th. That moment of recognition feels like the sun breaking through a storm. It feels euphoric because it was deprived. You think, finally, I got it right. You double your efforts to recreate that moment. You walk on eggshells. You strive for perfection. You chase the high of their validation. If they were always mean, you would leave. If they were always nice, you might get bored. But because they are unpredictable, you stay, hooked on the cycle of hope and anxiety. This selective recognition turns you into a watcher. You become hyper-vigilant, constantly scanning their mood, trying to decode the algorithm of their approval. What did I do differently today? You ask yourself. How can I make them smile like that again? You are the rat at the lever, unaware that the machine is random by design. The controller is not rewarding your performance. They are training your persistence. As you drift deeper into relaxation, let the need for that lever fade. You do not need to chase the intermittent sparks of someone else's approval to see your own worth. The sun does not need the permission of the clouds to shine. It simply burns. Your value is a constant, not a variable. Let the unpredictable noise of the world fall silent. You are off the clock. The experiment is over. You can rest now. The architecture of subtle fear. Fear, in its raw form, is loud. It is the roar of a lion, the scream of a siren. It triggers a fight or flight response that is immediate and explosive. But explicit fear is a poor tool for long-term control because it is exhausting. People eventually rebel against terror. The Machiavellian master prefers a different material: anxiety. This is the architecture of subtle fear. It is not a wall of fire. It is a low, constant hum of electricity that you can never quite locate, but never quite ignore. This technique relies on the sword of Damocles, the threat that hangs by a single horsehair above the head of the king. The sword never falls. If it fell, the tension would break. The power lies in the suspension. It is the implication of consequence rather than the delivery of it. It is the boss who says, "We need to talk later," and then disappears for hours, leaving you to stew in your own imagination. It is the partner who says, "I'm not angry, just disappointed," leaving you to wonder what the punishment will be. The genius of subtle fear is that it recruits your own imagination to do the work. The manipulator gives you a blank canvas of worry, and you paint your worst nightmares upon it. You police yourself. You censor your own words. You modify your behavior to avoid a conflict that hasn't even happened yet. You are walking through a minefield where the mines are invisible, so you tiptoe everywhere, even on safe ground. This chronic state of low-grade stress exhausts the spirit. It makes you pliable. When you are busy managing your anxiety, you have no energy left to question authority. Think of the atmosphere before a storm. The air pressure drops. The birds go quiet. The sky turns a bruised shade of purple. That heaviness, That is the feeling of subtle fear. It is the walking on eggshells. It is the don't rock the boat mentality. But notice something. The storm has not broken. The rain has not fallen. It is just air. In this safe space, under the covers, you can disconnect the power source of that hum. The thread is often a phantom. The sword is often made of paper. The fear is a projection, a shadow puppet cast on the wall to make a small thing look like a monster. Breathe into the silence. There is no impending doom here. There is no talk later. There is only the now, the slow rhythm of your chest, rising and falling. The architecture of fear crumbles when you refuse to live in the future. You are here, safe, in the fortress of your own peace. The game of asymmetric information. Information is the currency of reality. Whoever holds the most pieces of the puzzle dictates the picture everyone else sees. But in the game of influence, fairness is a myth. The board is tilted by design. This is the game of asymmetric information, a strategy where one side knows everything and the other knows only what they are permitted to see. It is the logic of the poker player who sees his own cards and the reflection of yours in his sunglasses. Consider the dynamic of the gatekeeper. In any organization or relationship, there is often a single point through which all news must pass. The Machiavellian figure positions themselves as this filter. They do not necessarily lie. They simply curate. They omit a crucial detail from a report. They delay delivering a message until the moment of maximum impact. They share a secret with you to build intimacy, but it is a calculated fragment, a piece of bait. By controlling the flow, they control the narrative. You are left making decisions based on an incomplete map. You feel autonomous, but your autonomy is an illusion because your data is corrupted. It is like playing chess in a dark room where your opponent has night vision goggles. They can see the entire board. You can only feel the square you are standing on. This asymmetry creates a power imbalance that feels almost mystical. You begin to believe they have intuition, foresight, or luck, when in reality, they simply have the other half of the page. But let us deconstruct the mechanism. The weakness of the gatekeeper is that they must maintain the dam. Information, like water, wants to flow. It seeks cracks. It leaks. The energy required to suppress the truth is immense and draining. While they are busy guarding the gates, they are trapped by their own secrets. As you lie here, realize that you do not need to know everything to be at peace. The need to know, the hunger for the missing pieces, keeps the mind agitated. Let go of the game. You are not on the chessboard tonight. You are the observer, watching the pieces move from a great distance. The secrets others keep are heavy stones in their pockets, not yours. You are traveling light, drifting into a space where truth is not a hidden commodity, but a clear, open sky. The seduction of exclusivity. We are hardwired to desire what is rare. If a door is open to everyone, we walk past it without a glance. But if a door is locked, velvet-roped, and guarded, we suddenly feel a desperate need to know what is behind it. This is the seduction of exclusivity. It is the manipulation of belonging. It turns the human need for community into a weapon of isolation. The tactic is simple. Create an inner circle. The influencer implies that there is a special group, a higher tier of understanding, a secret club of people who truly get it. And you are on the threshold. You are almost good enough to enter. Almost. They dangle the membership in front of you. They use phrases like, "Not everyone can handle this," or I only tell this to people I trust. These words act as a sieve, filtering out the skeptics and trapping the seekers. Once you are in, the trap snaps shut. To remain in the exclusive circle, you must conform. You must adopt their language, their enemies, their warped logic. The fear of being cast out, of returning to the cold outside, keeps you compliant. You feel special, chosen, elevated above the masses. But this elevation is lonely. By separating you from the others, the manipulator cuts you off from reality. You are in a silo, an echo chamber where their voice is the only one that resonates. Think of a VIP section in a crowded club. It is often just a roped-off area with the same furniture, the same drinks, but the price of admission is the validation of your ego. The value is entirely imaginary. It exists only because others are excluded. Tonight, dissolve the ropes. Dismantle the walls of the club. True connection is not about exclusion. It is about resonance. You do not need to be chosen by anyone to have worth. You do not need a golden ticket to exist. The air you breathe is the same air that circulates through the palaces and the prisons. Exclusivity is a small, cramped room. Your mind, as it drifts towards sleep, is a vast, borderless plain. You belong everywhere, because you are everything.
The echo of projection. We enter now the hall of mirrors, where the accusations you hear are often confessions in disguise. This is the echo of projection. It is one of the most disorienting defense mechanisms of the dark psyche. When a person cannot bear the weight of their own flaws, their own malice, their own insecurity, their own dishonesty, they eject them. They cast them out like a stone, throwing them onto you. The mechanism is startling in its audacity. The liar accuses you of deception. The cheater accuses you of infidelity. The tyrant accuses you of being controlling. It is a preemptive strike. By attacking you with the very sin they are committing, they put you on the defensive. You are so busy proving your innocence, so busy explaining and justifying yourself that you fail to see the confession hanging in the air. This creates a reality vertigo. You start to question your own sanity. Am I the one who is lying, you wonder? Am I the selfish one? The projection is so confident, so loud, that it overrides your own perception. It is a form of gaslighting that rewrites the script of who is the victim and who is the villain. They transfer their shame onto your shoulders, and you, out of confusion and empathy, carry it for them. But once you understand the acoustic physics of this echo, the noise loses its power. When someone accuses you of something that feels completely alien to your nature, stop. Do not defend. Do not argue. Listen to the specific words they use. They are describing themselves. They are reading their own biography and putting your name on the cover. Visualize a person shouting into a canyon. The voice comes back to them. The words belong to the speaker, not the canyon. You are the canyon, vast, ancient, and still. Let their words bounce off your walls and return to them. You do not need to catch them. You do not need to hold them. Let the echo fade into the silence of the night. You know who you are. The projection is merely a shadow passing over a stone. It changes nothing of the stone itself. The grammar of power language is not just a tool for description, it is a tool for construction. The words we use build the cage we live in. The Machiavellian linguist understands the grammar of power. They use language to subtly redefine reality, to shift responsibility, and to position themselves above you without you ever realizing the hierarchy has changed. Notice the use of the passive voice. Mistakes were made, they say, instead of I made a mistake. The agent of the error has vanished. The responsibility has evaporated into the ether. Notice the use of we. We need to work harder, they say, when they really mean you need to work harder. They socialize the burden while privatizing the credit. They use nominalizations, turning processes into static things. Instead of saying, you are hurting me, which invites a discussion about an action, they say, This is a toxic situation. The conflict becomes a noun, an object, a fixed state of being that cannot be changed. They use absolutes. You always. You never. These words leave no room for nuance, no room for growth. They trap you in a caricature of yourself. And then there is the double bind question. Why are you being so defensive? If you answer, you are being defensive. If you stay silent, you are admitting guilt. The grammar itself is a trap. We've reached the midpoint of this experiment, a good place to pause. Subscribe now if you want to follow where this reasoning leads. But words are just sounds, vibrations in the air. They only have the power you grant them. As you drift, strip the language of its armor. Hear the words as simple noises. Dismantle the sentences. Mistakes were made is just a sound. Always is just a sound. Beneath the grammar of control lies the silence of truth. In your dreams, there is no language, no passive voice, no accusation. There is only the pure, unmediated experience of being. You are beyond their definitions. You are the blank page before the ink touches it. Here is the fourth batch of the narrative journey, topics 13 to 16. We are now crossing the midpoint of the sequence. The themes become slightly more intricate, moving from simple manipulation to the complex emotional structures that bind us to others. The rhythm remains steady and grounding. The theater of fragility. We return to the paradox of weakness, but here we view it not as a shield, but as a stage play. This is the theater of fragility. While the mask of vulnerability is a momentary lowering of defenses to gain trust, the theater is a lifestyle. It is the tyranny of the weak. It is the specific power held by the person who falls apart the loudest, forcing everyone else to freeze and attend to the pieces. In any ecosystem, attention is a finite resource. The Machiavellian actor knows that competence is quiet. If you are doing your job well, if you are emotionally stable, you become invisible. You become part of the furniture. But if you are fragile, if you are constantly on the verge of a breakdown, a crisis, or a fainting spell, you become the protagonist. The entire room organizes itself around your mood. We must be quiet. She has a headache. Don't tell him the bad news yet. He can't handle it. The fragile person dictates the weather. This control is exerted through the threat of collapse. It is a hostage situation where the hostage is the manipulator's own well-being. You find yourself walking on eggshells, not because you fear their strength, but because you fear their shattering. You become a caretaker, a guardian, suppressing your own needs to keep their delicate reality intact. You suppress your anger because it would crush them. You suppress your truth because they are too sensitive. Deconstruct this mechanism. Is it true fragility, or is it a weaponized intolerance for discomfort? The person who controls the emotional thermostat of a relationship is the one with the least emotional regulation. It is a reversal of nature. The weakest member leads the pack because the pack is terrified of leaving them behind. As you lie in the dark, exhale the burden of being the caretaker. You are not responsible for holding anyone else together. You are not the glue of the universe. Let the stage lights dim. If they shatter, they shatter. But often you will find that when the audience leaves, the actor stands up, dusts themselves off, and walks away perfectly fine. The fragility was a performance, and you have permission to stop watching. The physics of reciprocity. We have spoken of favors, but now we must understand the mechanics of concession. This is the physics of reciprocity, specifically a law known in psychology as reciprocal concessions. It is the art of asking for the moon, knowing you will be refused, so that you can settle for the stars, which is what you wanted all along. Imagine a negotiator who wants you to work this Saturday. If they walk up and ask, "Can you work Saturday?" you will likely say no. You have plans. You are tired. The request is intrusive. The answer is a firm rejection. But the Machiavellian physicist knows how to manipulate the momentum of no. They approach you and say, "I need you to lead the new project. It will require working every weekend for the next 3 months." Your reaction is immediate shock. "Absolutely not," you say. "I can't do that." You slam the door in their face. They look defeated. They pause. They sigh. Then they say, Okay, I understand. That's too much. How about just this coming Saturday to help us catch up? Suddenly the energy shifts. They have retreated from their extreme position. The pressure of reciprocity dictates that you must now meet them in the middle. They made a concession. Now you must make one. You feel a wave of relief that you dodged the 3-month bullet, and in that relief, the Saturday request looks tiny. It looks reasonable. Okay, you say, I can do just this Saturday. You have been played. The Saturday was the only target. The 3-month request was a phantom, a decoy designed to be shot down so that the real request would seem like a compromise. This is the door in the face technique. It weaponizes your guilt and your desire to appear reasonable. It uses the momentum of your own rejection to pull you forward into agreement. In the quiet of your room, let the phantom request dissolve. You do not have to meet anyone in the middle if the middle is still a trap. You do not owe a concession simply because someone stopped making an unreasonable demand. 0 is a valid number. No is a complete sentence. Feel the weight of your own boundaries. They are not negotiable. They are the walls of your sanctuary, and they stand firm. The Labyrinth of Doubt. We enter now a space where the geography of reality begins to shift. This is the Labyrinth of Doubt. In modern terms, we call it gaslighting, but the mechanism is older and deeper than a simple lie. It is an attack on your memory, your perception, and your sanity. It is the act of moving the furniture while you sleep and telling you it has always been there. The goal of the labyrinth is to make you distrust your own senses. The manipulator denies events that you witnessed. I never said that, they say, with absolute conviction. You're imagining things. You're being paranoid. They tell you that your reaction to an insult is the real problem, not the insult itself. They rewrite history in real time. Over time, this erosion of certainty creates a dependency on the manipulator for reality testing. You become like a blind person needing a guide. You ask them, did that happen? Am I crazy? Once you ask that question, they own you. They become the arbiter of truth. They hold the map. You are lost in the corridors of your own mind, afraid to turn a corner without their permission. The labyrinth is built on the premise that you are flawed and they are objective. But listen to the architecture of the maze. It is built of words, nothing more. The event happened. The hurt was real. The words were spoken. Your memory is not a sieve, it is a vault. To escape the labyrinth, you do not need to convince the Minotaur that he is wrong. You simply need to trust the thread in your hand. That thread is your intuition. It is that quiet, physical sensation in your gut that says, something is wrong here. That feeling is older than language. It does not lie. As you drift towards the unconscious, hold on to that thread. Trust your own mind. The walls they built are made of smoke. If you stop believing in the maze, the walls vanish. You are standing in an open field. The sun is rising. You are not crazy. You are just waking up. The chemistry of admiration. Finally, we arrive at the most intoxicating drug in the Machiavellian cabinet, the chemistry of admiration. We often think of dark psychology as painful, but the most dangerous entry point is pleasure. It is the love bomb. It is the sudden, overwhelming injection of dopamine that comes from being idealized. In the beginning, the influencer does not criticize you. They worship you. They place you on a pedestal so high you get vertigo. They tell you that you are the smartest, the funniest, the most beautiful person they have ever met. They mirror your dreams back to you. They make you feel like the main character of a movie. This phase is not about love. It is about hooking you to a source of supply. Biologically, this floods your brain with the same chemicals produced by cocaine or gambling. You feel euphoric. You feel seen. But the purpose of the pedestal is not to keep you there. It is to create a distance from which you can fall. Once you are addicted to the high of their admiration, they begin to withdraw it. They pull away. The compliments stop. The texts become shorter. You crash. You enter withdrawal. You panic. You will do anything, accept anything, forgive anything, just to get that hit of admiration back. You chase the ghost of the beginning. You think, if I just try harder, they will look at me like that again. You are chasing a mirage. The person who worshipped you never existed. They were a mirror reflecting your own desire to be loved. But tonight, in the safety of sleep, you can detox. You do not need to be worshipped to be worthy. You do not need the artificial light of someone else's praise to be visible. A pedestal is a lonely place. It is narrow and unstable. Step down from it. Feel the solid ground beneath your feet. The earth supports you without asking for anything in return. You are enough, not because someone says so, but because you exist. Let the chemistry settle. Let the dopamine fade. Replace the high with the deep, slow rhythm of peace. The clock of strategic patience. In a world that is addicted to speed, where every notification demands an immediate reaction and every silence feels like an emergency, there exists a power that is almost entirely forgotten: the ability to wait. We are conditioned to believe that action is always superior to inaction. We think that if we are not moving, we are losing. But the Machiavellian master understands that time is not just a measurement, it is a terrain, and the one who controls the tempo of the engagement controls the outcome. This is the clock of strategic patience. It is the discipline of the predator who knows that the prey will eventually make a mistake, provided the predator remains still enough to be forgotten. Consider the crocodile. It is an ancient creature, a master of the river, yet it spends 90% of its life doing absolutely nothing. It drifts. It looks like a log. It looks like debris. It does not chase the gazelle across the savannah. That would be a waste of energy, a gamble with poor odds. Instead, it positions itself where the gazelle must eventually come, the water's edge, and it waits. It waits for hours, for days, perhaps for weeks. It waits until the prey forgets that danger exists. It waits until the thirsty animal lowers its head, compromising its vision. The strike, when it comes, takes less than a second, but that second was purchased with 100 hours of stillness. In the human dynamic, this translates to the art of non-reaction. When someone attacks you, insults you, or tries to pressure you into a decision, your instinct is to snap back. The ego screams for defense. The adrenaline floods your system, urging you to correct the record, to fight, to act. But the strategist suppresses this instinct. They know that immediate reactions are usually emotional, clumsy, and revealing. By reacting instantly, you give your opponent exactly what they want: data on your emotional state and a confirmation that their arrow hit the mark. Instead, imagine the power of delay. Your boss sends a frantic, aggressive email at 10 o'clock p.m. The trap is set. If you reply now, you engage in a battle on their terms while you are tired and defensive. If you wait until 9 o'clock a.m. the next morning, the dynamic shifts completely. The emotion has drained out of the moment. You have slept. You have regained your logic. Your silence during the night has likely caused them anxiety, making them wonder if they went too far. By simply doing nothing, you have regained the upper hand. This applies profoundly to negotiation and conflict. The person who is in a hurry is always at a disadvantage. Salespeople use false urgency, "this offer expires in an hour," to rob you of your patience. They know that if you take time to think, their spell will break. The antidote is to slow down the clock. When you feel the pressure to act, treat it as a red flag. The more urgent the demand feels, the more necessary the pause becomes. Think of the times you made a mistake you regretted. Almost all of them were born from rushing. You spoke too soon. You signed too quickly. You agreed because you wanted the tension of the decision to end. Now, rewrite those moments with the clock of strategic patience. Imagine sitting with the discomfort of the unresolved. Imagine letting the silence stretch until the other person fills it with the truth. There is a profound luxury in taking your time. It signals to the world and to your own subconscious that you are not a servant of circumstances. You are the king of your own timeline. As you drift towards sleep, feel the ticking of the world slow down. Let the urgency of the day dissolve. There is nothing you need to do right now. The river flows on its own. You can just be the log in the water, heavy, still, and enduring. The paradox of total control. We move now to a counterintuitive truth about the nature of holding on. We often equate power with grip strength. We believe that to control a situation, a project, or a person, we must monitor every variable, correct every deviation, and keep the leash short. We become micromanagers of reality, terrified that if we look away for a single second, chaos will erupt. But the Machiavellian insight is that excessive control creates fragility. This is the paradox of total control. The tighter you squeeze, the less you actually hold. Visualize a handful of dry sand. If you hold your palm open and flat, the sand sits there, stable and contained. You can carry it for miles, but the moment you close your fingers, the moment you try to secure the sand by making a fist, it begins to escape. It spills between your knuckles. The harder you squeeze, the faster it drains, until you are left with nothing but the dust of your own anxiety. The sand represents the people and situations in your life. They require a certain amount of space to remain with you willingly. This paradox plays out destructively in relationships. The jealous partner who demands to know passwords, who tracks locations, who interrogates every interaction, believes they are ensuring loyalty. In reality, they are manufacturing rebellion. By removing the other person's autonomy, they destroy the very thing that makes loyalty valuable: choice. If someone stays with you because they are chained, their presence is worthless. It is a hollow victory. Furthermore, the act of constant surveillance is exhausting. It turns the controller into a warden, a job that requires 24-hour vigilance and offers no rest. In the workplace, this is the manager who cannot delegate. They touch every document, critique every email, and hover over every shoulder. They think they are ensuring quality, but they are actually creating a bottleneck. They become the single point of failure. If they get sick, the entire system collapses. Their team becomes passive, waiting for instructions rather than taking initiative, because they have learned that their initiative will only be overruled. The leader's desire for total control has resulted in a total loss of organizational intelligence. True power, the dark psychology suggests, is strategic ambiguity and delegated chaos. It is setting the parameters of the game and then letting the players play. It is the confidence to look away, knowing that you have designed a system that self-corrects. It is the ability to plant a seed and trust the soil, rather than digging it up every hour to check if it has roots. As you lie here, unclench your hands. Physically, let your fingers curl naturally, loosely. Notice where in your life you are squeezing too hard. Is it your children's future, your partner's feelings, your own career path? This white-knuckled grip is not keeping you safe. It is keeping you tired. It is keeping you in a state of chronic contraction. Control is an illusion. You cannot stop the waves from crashing, but you can learn to float. Letting go is not giving up. It is accepting the physics of the universe. It is allowing the sand to rest on your palm. There is a deep peace in realizing that the world will continue to spin without your constant supervision. You can resign as the general manager of the universe for tonight. You can just be a passenger. The mirage of freedom. We often think of manipulation as a force that pushes us against our will. We imagine chains, walls, and guards. But the most sophisticated form of control is the one that convinces you that you are free, while subtly guiding your steps into a predetermined pen. This is the mirage of freedom. It is the invisible fence of the human mind. It operates on the principle that a prisoner who believes they are free will never try to escape because they do not see the walls. Consider the cattle grid used in farming. It is a set of metal bars spaced across a hole in the road. Cattle are terrified of walking on it because their hooves might slip through. Often, farmers don't even need real metal bars. They simply paint lines on the asphalt that look like a grid. The cows approach, see the pattern, and stop. They are physically capable of crossing. There is no barrier. But the barrier in their mind is absolute. They are trapped by an illusion of geometry. In our modern lives, these painted lines are everywhere. Consider the corporate concept of unlimited vacation. It sounds like ultimate freedom. It sounds like a gift. Take as much time as you need, they say. But in practice, this policy often leads to people taking less vacation than when they had a fixed allowance. Why? Because without a clear quota, the social contract becomes ambiguous. You enter a psychological game of who works the hardest. You fear that if you take 3 weeks, you will look less committed than the colleague who took none. The freedom acts as a trap. The lack of rules creates a stricter rule. the rule of social pressure and self-policing. The same logic applies to the open plan office or the transparent digital workspace. The walls are removed to symbolize openness and collaboration, but without walls, you are constantly observed. The panopticon effect kicks in. Because you might be watched at any moment by anyone, you internalize the gaze of the supervisor. You act busy even when you are thinking. You perform productivity rather than engaging in deep work. You have been given the freedom of space, but you have lost the freedom of privacy. This mirage extends to consumerism. You walk into a supermarket and see 50 types of cereal. You feel empowered by the variety. I am free to choose, you think. But are you? Or are you simply choosing between 50 different shapes of sugar and corn, all owned by the same three conglomerates, all designed despite the same insulin response? The choice is aesthetic, not functional. You are free to pick the color of your cage, but you are not free to leave the zoo. Tonight, try to see the painted lines for what they are. Where in your life do you stop yourself because of a rule that doesn't actually exist? Where are you policing yourself to fit into a culture that claims to be free but demands conformity? The realization of the mirage is the first step toward real autonomy. You can cross the cattle grid. Nothing terrible will happen. The fear is an inheritance, not a reality. As you drift deeper into the subconscious, imagine yourself walking past the invisible barriers. You are stepping off the paved road into the tall grass where there are no paths, no signs, and no eyes watching. The final Machiavellianism. We have journeyed through the dark valleys of manipulation, studying the masks, the mirrors, and the traps. It is easy to feel a sense of cynicism, to view human interaction as a bleak battlefield where everyone is a potential enemy and every kindness is a calculated move. But to leave you there would be incomplete. There is a higher level of understanding, a summit above the fog. This is the final Machiavellianism, the point where the study of power transforms into the practice of peace. The ultimate goal of understanding these dark patterns is not to become a monster, it is to become immune to monsters. When you know how the magician does the trick, you are no longer captivated by the illusion. You can watch the show with a faint smile, appreciating the technique, but you are not fooled. You cease to be a victim of other people's games because you can see the board. When you understand the mirror of manipulation, you are no longer seduced by instant intimacy. You wait for character to reveal itself. When you understand the economy of favors, you accept gifts without accepting the guilt attached to them. When you understand projection, you no longer absorb the insults of others. You let them slide off you like water off oil. The knowledge acts as a shield, not a sword. But there is a deeper turn. The true Machiavellian, the one who has truly mastered their own nature, realizes that the most powerful influence is not deception, but authenticity. Deception is exhausting. It requires high cognitive load. You must remember your lies. You must maintain the mask. You must track the variables. Honesty, paradoxically, is the most efficient strategy. It requires zero maintenance. If you are truly secure, if you do not need to control others to feel safe, you become a magnet. People are drawn to those who do not try to pull them. They trust those who do not try to trick them. So the final twist of the knife is this. The ultimate power move is to drop the game entirely. It is to be so grounded in your own reality, so accepting of your own shadows, that no one can use them against you. If you know you are selfish sometimes, no one can hurt you by calling you selfish. If you know you are vulnerable, no one can exploit your vulnerability because you have already owned it. As you reach the end of this thought, let the armor fall away. You do not need to be Machiavelli tonight. You do not need to plot. You do not need to defend. You have seen the machinery of the world, and you have seen that it is mostly driven by fear. You, lying here safe and warm, are outside of that fear. You are the prince of your own silence. The castle gates are locked, the bridge is up, and the fire is lit in the hearth. You are safe in the sovereignty of your own soul. Sleep now, in the absolute power of peace. The seduction of controlled chaos. We tend to believe that leaders and influencers are those who bring order to the world. We imagine the wise captain steering the ship through the storm, the calm voice in the panic. But there is a darker, more potent archetype in the gallery of power, the firefighter arsonist. This is the master of controlled chaos. They do not wait for the storm to prove their worth. They manufacture the storm so that you will beg for their shelter. Imagine a workplace or a relationship that feels perpetually unstable. Just as you find your footing, the rug is pulled. A sudden crisis emerges, a lost file, a rumor of layoffs, a sudden accusation of infidelity, a frantic deadline that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Your heart races, your cortisol spikes, you feel the water rising around your neck. And then, in the moment of peak panic, they step in. The architect of the chaos arrives with the solution. They make the phone call that saves the deal. They forgive you for the transgression you didn't commit. They calm the waters, they themselves agitated. The psychological impact of this cycle is devastatingly effective. You experience a profound wave of relief and gratitude. You view them as a savior. You think, thank God they were here to fix this. You are so flooded with relief that you fail to notice the pattern. They are always the ones holding the matches. This is trauma bonding in its most strategic form. By alternating between inducing terror and providing comfort, they create a biochemical dependency in your brain. You become addicted to the relief they provide, blind to the fact that they are the source of the pain. The seduction of controlled chaos works because the human mind hates uncertainty. We will follow anyone who offers a map, even if they are the ones who hid the road signs. History is filled with leaders who manufactured crises, threats from outsiders, economic instabilities, moral panics, simply to justify the tightening of their grip. I alone can fix it, they say. And because we are frightened, because the chaos feels so real and so overwhelming, we hand them the keys to our freedom. We trade our autonomy for a sense of stability, not realizing that the stability is artificial. But tonight, in the safety of your own mind, you can step out of the whirlwind. Look at the crises in your life with a cold, detached eye. Are they natural disasters, or are they man-made? Are the emergencies truly random, or do they always seem to benefit the person who solves them? To see the arsonist is to lose the need for the firefighter. When you realize the fire is a special effect, the fear evaporates. You can stand in the center of their manufactured storm and feel nothing but the quiet of your own center. You are the eye of the hurricane, still, observant, and untouched by the winds they try to blow in your direction. The magnetism of indifference. We arrive now at a law of physics that governs the human heart as surely as gravity governs the stars. We chase what retreats. This is the magnetism of indifference. It is the devastating allure of the person who simply does not care, or who effectively pretends not to. In a world of desperate people clamoring for attention, likes, and validation, the person who needs nothing becomes a king. Consider the dynamic between a dog and a cat. The dog offers unconditional love. It jumps, it licks, it begs for approval. It is always available. And while we love the dog, we do not respect it in the same way we respect the cat. The cat sits on the high shelf, watching with half-closed eyes. It comes to you only when it wants to. It offers its affection as a rare gift, not a daily ration. And because of this, we work for the cat's attention. We feel honored when it chooses to sit on our lap. The cat understands the power of scarcity. In human seduction and negotiation, the principle of least interest states that the person who is least interested in continuing the relationship holds the most power. If you are willing to walk away, you can dictate the terms. If you need the deal, you are at the mercy of the other party. The Machiavellian figure weaponizes this. They cultivate an air of aloofness. They delay their responses, not out of busyness, but out of strategy. They listen more than they speak. They look at you with a gaze that is not hostile, but merely unimpressed. This triggers a primal anxiety in the target. Our egos are fragile. We want to be recognized, to be impactful. When we encounter a void, a person who does not reflect our importance back to us, we feel a compulsion to fill it. We try harder, we perform, we bring gifts, we over-explain. We throw our energy into the black hole of their indifference, hoping to get a spark of reaction. We want to be the one who cracks the code, the special one who finally makes them care. It is a trap of vanity. The indifference acts as a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human soul. We rush to fill the empty space with our own longing. But realize this: the vacuum is not deep, it is just empty. The aloofness is often a mask for a lack of substance. They are not holding back a great treasure, they are simply hiding an empty room. As you drift, practice the art of your own indifference. Not the cruel indifference of the manipulator, but the peaceful indifference of the mountain. The mountain does not care if the wind blows or if the rain falls. It does not chase the clouds. It simply is. Let the need to be validated fall away from you. You do not need to chase what retreats. Let it go. If it returns, it returns. If it does not, you are still the mountain. You are whole, grounded, and complete, regardless of who is watching. The strategy of benevolent deception. We are raised to believe that lies are sharp, jagged things, weapons used by enemies to draw blood. We expect manipulation to look like a sneer or a threat, but the most effective prison is not built with bars of iron. It is built with pillows of silk. This is the strategy of benevolent deception. It is the art of lying to someone for their own good. It is the noble lie of Plato, twisted into a tool of interpersonal control. Consider the archetype of the overprotective guardian. This figure does not abuse you. They curate your reality to keep you safe. They hide the unpaid bills so you don't have to worry. They intercept the criticism from your boss so you don't feel discouraged. They conceal the bad news about a family member's health so you can focus on your work. On the surface, this looks like love. It looks like sacrifice. They are taking the burden onto their own shoulders. But let us look at the mechanics of this act. When someone hides the truth from you to protect you, they are effectively making a decision about your capacity to handle reality. They are deciding that you are too weak, too fragile, or too emotional to process the raw data of your own life. They are appointing themselves as the editor of your existence. By filtering the information you receive, they are controlling the choices you make. You cannot solve a financial crisis you do not know exists. You cannot heal a relationship if you do not know it is broken. This creates a Truman Show effect. You are living in a constructed dome. You walk through your days believing the sky is blue and the world is stable, while the person controlling the dome knows the storm is gathering. This disparity in knowledge creates a profound power imbalance. They become the god of your small world. And inevitably, when the truth breaks through, as it always does, the betrayal is not just about the lie, it is about the humiliation. You realize you have been treated like a child, you have been played. The danger of benevolent deception is that it is almost impossible to fight. If you get angry, the manipulator plays the martyr. I only did it because I love you, they say. I didn't want to hurt you. Suddenly, you are the villain for demanding the truth. You are the ungrateful one. This defense mechanism makes the strategy nearly airtight. It weaponizes your own empathy against you. But tonight, in the clarity of the dark, reclaim your right to the jagged edges of reality. You do not need to be swaddled in cotton. You are an adult, capable of facing the wind. True respect is not hiding the storm. It is standing next to someone while it rains. As you relax your muscles, imagine tearing down the soft, suffocating curtains of protection. Step out into the cold, clear air of truth. It might be sharper, but it is yours. It is better to walk on hard ground with your eyes open than to float in a soft void with your eyes sewn shut. 4. The anchor of shared secrets. We move now to the binding agent of the underworld, the secret. We often think of intimacy as the sharing of hopes and dreams, but the Machiavellian psychologist knows that the strongest bond is not hope, it is complicity. This is the anchor of shared secrets. It is the principle that two people are never closer than when they are burying a body together, metaphorically or otherwise. The mechanic begins with a calculated disclosure. The The manipulator reveals a dark secret to you early in the relationship. They tell you about a crime they committed, a person they betrayed, an addiction they hide. This confession feels like a gift. It feels like trust. They are showing me their shadow, you think. They must really trust me. Your biology responds to this vulnerability by urging you to reciprocate. To balance the scales, to prove you are a safe harbor, you reveal a dark secret of your own. You tell them about your shame, your guilt, your hidden fear. The trap snaps shut. The moment you trade your secret for theirs, you have entered a contract of mutually assured destruction. You are now locked in a stalemate. You cannot leave and you cannot attack because they hold the nuclear codes to your reputation. This is not intimacy, it is collusion. It is a hostage exchange where you are both the hostage and the guard. This dynamic is prevalent in toxic work environments and intense, volatile friendships. The gossip bond is a mild form of this. When two people bond solely by speaking ill of a third, they are creating a micropact of negativity. They feel safe with each other because they are in on it, but they also feel a subtle paranoia. If they talk this way about others to me, what do they say about me to others? The anchor of shared secrets creates a heavy, stagnant energy. You feel weighed down by what you know and what is known about you. You walk through the world carrying a stone in your chest. The fear of exposure keeps you compliant. You forgive transgressions you shouldn't forgive. You stay in rooms you should leave simply because you are afraid the vault will be opened. But as you lie here, visualize that anchor. Look at the chain. The secret only has weight if you are still carrying the shame attached to it. The ultimate way to break the anchor is to forgive yourself. Whatever you did, whatever you are hiding, it is a part of your history, not your identity. If you accept your own shadow, if you make peace with your own flaws, the blackmailer loses their leverage. The secret loses its volatility. Imagine the chain rusting and snapping. The anchor falls away into the deep, dark ocean, disappearing into the silt. You are no longer tethered to the bottom. The boat of your soul begins to drift, light and free, moving with the gentle current of the night. You have nothing to hide because you have nothing to fear. You are transparent like water, and in that transparency you are invincible. The void of ambiguity. We approach the edge of the map, where the lines become blurred and the compass spins wildly. This is the void of ambiguity. The human mind is a machine designed for closure. It craves binary states, yes or no, safe or dangerous, friend or enemy. When we are denied this clarity, our cognitive machinery begins to overheat. The Machiavellian architect knows that if they cannot control you with fear, they can paralyze you with confusion. This is the weaponization of the maybe. It is the tactic of the mixed signal. In a relationship, it is the partner who is warm one moment and cold the next, not in a rhythmic cycle, but in a chaotic, unpredictable static. They never explicitly reject you, so you cannot mourn and move on. But they never fully commit to you, so you cannot feel safe. You are kept in a suspended state of animation, a purgatory of waiting. This is the Zeigarnik effect, weaponized, the psychological principle that states we remember unfinished tasks far better than finished ones. Because the loop is never closed, your brain cannot file the experience away. It remains active, burning energy in the background, constantly analyzing, constantly asking, what did they mean by that? In the corporate world, this manifests as the pocket veto. A manager does not say no to your idea. They say, let's put a pin in it, or let's circle back later. They keep the option open without committing resources. They hoard your hope. They keep you working on the proposal, refining the pitch, staying late to perfect the details, all for a decision that they have no intention of making. Ambiguity allows them to extract your labor without offering a reward. It keeps you on the hook, swimming in the void, afraid to swim away lest you miss the moment the line tightens. The torture of ambiguity is that it forces you to become the author of your own suffering. Because they give you a blank page, you fill it with your own insecurities. You invent reasons for their silence. Maybe they are just busy. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. You become their defense attorney. You rationalize their lack of respect as a complexity of character. You tell yourself they are deep or conflicted, when in reality they are simply indifferent or calculating. But tonight, Let us close the loop ourselves. You do not need their yes or no to find peace. You have the power to interpret silence as an answer. If the answer is not a clear yes, then, for the sake of your own sanity, treat it as a no. Ambiguity is not a sign of depth. It is a sign of cowardice or control. As you lie here, identify the open loops in your life, the waiting, the wondering, the maybe. Visualize yourself taking a pair of scissors and cutting the thread. You are not waiting for the phone to ring. You are not waiting for the verdict. You are declaring the trial over. The void is not a place you have to live. You can step out of the fog and into the solid, quiet room of your own certainty. You know who you are. That is the only answer you need. The diplomacy of retreat. We are taught from birth that winners never quit and quitters never win. We are fed the myth of the hero who fights to the last breath, who stands alone against the army, who burns the boats. But in the cool, unemotional logic of strategy, this is often suicide. The Machiavellian master understands a concept that the ego despises, the diplomacy of retreat. Sometimes the only way to win the war is to lose the battle on purpose. This brings us to the sunk cost fallacy. This is the cognitive glitch that compels us to continue investing in a losing proposition simply because we have already invested so much. The manipulator uses this against you. They know that if they can get you to invest time, money, or emotion into a mistake, you will fight tooth and nail to prove it wasn't a mistake. You will stay in a toxic relationship for 5 years simply because you don't want to admit the first 4 were a waste. You will throw good money after bad. The trap is the refusal to fold. You are sitting at a poker table with a terrible hand, but because you have already put chips in the pot, you keep calling the bets. The other player knows this. They keep raising the stakes, bleeding you dry, banking on your inability to walk away. They rely on your pride. They rely on your fear of looking like a failure. But true power lies in the capacity to assess a situation, realize the odds are rigged, and simply stand up and leave the table. Retreat is not cowardice. It is conservation. It is the decision to stop watering a dead plant. It is the decision to stop arguing with someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. It is the realization that your energy is a limited resource and you have the right to withdraw it from investments that yield no return. Think of the arguments you have had that went in circles, the drain on your chest, the tightness in your throat, the desperate need to be heard. Now imagine the diplomacy of retreat. Imagine simply stopping. You do not storm out. You do not slam the door. You simply stop pushing against the wall. You drop the rope. You might be right, you say, and you disengage. The silence that follows is not the silence of defeat. It is the silence of liberation. You have saved your resources. You have preserved your peace. You have denied them the fuel of your reaction. As you drift deeper into relaxation, give yourself permission to quit. Quit the battles that cannot be won. Quit the need to prove yourself to people who cannot see you. Quit the sunk costs. The past is gone. The chips you lost are gone. But the chips you have left, your time, your sleep, your peace, are yours to keep. Gather them up. Cash them in. Leave the casino. The night air outside is cool and fresh. The horizon of silence. We have arrived at the end of the labyrinth. We have walked through the mirrors, the masks, the traps, and the fires. We have seen the machinery of influence in all its dark complexity. And now we stand at the edge of the world, looking out at the horizon of silence. This is the final destination of all wisdom. After all the games are played, after all the words are spoken, the only truth that remains is the quiet that follows. The ultimate Machiavellian realization is that the game is optional. You do not have to play. The strategies we have discussed, the mirroring, the framing, the patience, are tools for navigating the world of noise. But you, the consciousness behind the eyes, belong to the world of silence. You are not the manipulator, and you are not the manipulated. You are the witness. In this state of deep rest, the need for influence dissolves. You do not need to control anyone because you are complete in yourself. You do not need to fear anyone because you understand their nature. The monsters are just people in costumes, driven by their own hunger and their own fear. You can look at them with compassion, or you can look at them with indifference, but you no longer look at them with terror. The horizon is vast. It is dark, like the sleep that is coming for you. It is smooth, like the surface of a still ocean. All the strategies, all the analyses, all the vigilance, let them sink into that ocean. They are heavy stones, and you are no longer carrying them. You are floating on the surface. Feel the bed beneath you. It is the only reality that matters right now. Feel the breath entering your lungs. It is the only rhythm you need to follow. There is no one to convince here. There is no one to impress. There is no one to outsmart. The mind games have ceased. The board is folded. The lights are out. You are reclaiming your territory, the territory of your dreams, the territory of your peace. No one can enter this space without your permission. It is your fortress, your sanctuary, your void. As you cross the horizon from the waking world into the sleeping world, leave the armor on the shore. You will not need it where you are going. You are safe. You are wise. You are free. Drift now. Drift. Silence. If you reach this conclusion, you've become part of the data few achieve. The vast majority of minds have already drifted off, lost in the early stages of the maze. But you walked the entire path. You faced the shadows and came out the other side. Comment, "I know the secret" below. It is a signal to the others who are awake. It is a mark that you understand the game, and more importantly, you know how to stop playing it. Share this reflection with someone who is still fighting battles they don't need to fight. Help them find the exit. Sleep well. The game is over.